What's up, Pacers fans, and welcome to another great episode of Pacers Daily right here on Fan Arch. Excited to be here with you today. And as always, we're presented by Kalshi. Love having our friends at Kalshi on board. A lot to get into today, a really exciting episode. It's Friday. It's Fast Friday. If you're here in Indianapolis, you can't really see it, but I've got my Pacers and Racers shirt on today to mark the occasion. Just a big weekend over at the Speedway qualifying weekend, taking place at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on Saturday and Sunday for the 110th running of the Indianapolis 500, which is Memorial Day weekend. The local star, Connor Daly, he grew up across the street from me, by the way, in Noblesville. So fun fact there. He has a car that could really make a push to start at the front of the field in next weekend's 500, which is awesome. So go, Connor. In other news, the Indiana Fever are back in action at home tonight against the Washington Mystics. The tip is at 7:30 over at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. So really, I wanted to get into some really great fan comments from the show yesterday. Remember, we talked about Chad Buchanan and his thoughts about the draft lottery and what happened there, and then possible next steps. He was on with John Michael Vincent of 107.5 The Fan earlier this week, and so he had great information there. And then I threw out some possible free agent names that the Pacers could go out and target in free agency. So wanted to hear back from you guys. I'm only going to do a couple because we do have a ton to get into on the show today. But Jefferson Owens, so I'm a part of several different groups on social media when it comes to the Indiana Pacers. Love following all of these outlets. So really, Jefferson Owens on Pacers Nation said the Pacers might not want to hear this, but the Pacers have made major mistakes this season. Now in the offseason, the Pacers should have built this team around Tyrese Haliburton and Ben Mathurin. So Pacers fans, prepare yourselves for the regression. I disagree with part of that. I don't think there's going to be a regression. Again, Jefferson, thank you for the comment, man. I don't think there's going to be a regression. Number one. Number two, we had to go get a center. We didn't have a choice. We had to go get a center. Otherwise, we would have been frantic trying to find one this offseason. And really, when I get into the Kevin Pritchard section of the show today, he opens up about that. And so really, when it comes to it, I understand building around Ty, building around Benedict Mathurin. Yes, we are going to miss Benedict Mathurin's scoring for sure. However, his defense was a liability, and Ty is already a defensive liability. He came out and said that he's not a great defender. And so really, we need to put players around him that can make up for that lack of defense, especially as he gets his footing underneath him when he's coming back from the injury. So really, I understand where you're coming from, Jefferson. I do understand. But when it comes to doing what we have to do as a team, like I said, we're going to miss Ben's scoring. He could come off the bench and get you 20, get you 25. He was inconsistent at some time, at some points of the season. And then, again, his defense was a liability. So had to go get a center. We've got a great core roster around Ty. And we've got Ty and Siakam and Nesmith and Nembhard and now Zoo. And that's a great core to have now that we have a center. Jay Huff, yes, he played 82 games. He was a good rim protector. He could block shots, stuff like that. Not exactly super quick on his feet. Micah Potter came in and did big things as well, and I'm going to get into some Micah Potter stuff later in the show. But Micah Potter, he's not exactly a starting center. So getting that starting center caliber player in Zoo was massive for the Pacers at the draft or at the trade deadline. And then Joel McKinney, 1171, he's talking about free agency. He said Gary Trent Jr. could be really solid for the Pacers. Dude was a beast during the Pacers-Bucks playoff series. For his contract, you'd be getting a lot of value from his scoring and shooting off the bench that will be missing from Mathurin, like we had just talked about. His effort on defense is there as well. As for character concerns, coming off the Pacers bench could be his best chance of getting a ring. So I'd hope he'd lock in and do what he can to help the team win a championship. Joel, always great to hear from you, man. Love the comment. Really, Gary Trent Jr. would be a fantastic choice, in my opinion, as a free agency target. Now, we saw it firsthand at Gainbridge Fieldhouse and up in Milwaukee, right? He can score, and he can score at will. He can distribute. He can defend. He can do all those things, which is exactly what the Pacers need. Again, like I said in yesterday's show, really, attitude is going to be the biggest thing. And Joel, I love what you said. If he can lock in, we'd be in a great spot to help him get a ring coming off the bench for the Indiana Pacers. So everybody, thank you. Again, I will get into more comments on the show on Monday. But I have a ton to get into for the rest of the show, and I didn't want to take away time. But love hearing from everybody. Keep the comments coming. I will definitely go over some more comments on the show on Monday. But really, again, like I said, I wanted to go over some other comments that Kevin Pritchard mentioned on the Pat McAfee show earlier this week. I touched on it briefly earlier in the week on the show, but wanted to kind of dive into it a little bit more. And he said, but really, it was the fact that he said, going to the Eastern Conference Finals 2 years in a row, going to the NBA Finals a year ago, we wanted to keep our core guys and didn't want to trade them. That left us with our draft picks to go out and get a center, and that's exactly what they did. We had looked all over the NBA and had a lot of discussions. Zoo was really the only center that kept coming back and feeling great to us. You have to take these risks. He then went on to say, 5 years ago, we looked at what we had. We eventually made the move for Ty. We made a big move for Siakam, and we felt like we were really only one piece away from being in the contenders conversation. We made the move for Zoo. We love him. With this core, Ty, Drew, Aaron, Siakam, and now Zoo, we think we're right back to where we were a year ago. It was a risk that we were willing to take. And then I love this because, like he said, this core, and then you've got McConnell, Obi coming off the bench. We'll see what happens with Jarris. We'll see what happens with Shepard. On down the line, you've got Micah Potter coming off the bench as well. I'll dive into Micah here in a second, but possibly Jay Huff as well. And then you've got Furphy. What's going to happen to him when he comes back? He was playing great basketball for the Pacers when, unfortunately, when he got hurt. So again, core players, great players coming off the bench. We're in a great spot. And then, during the interview, Pat even says to Kevin Pritchard that, hey, Chad Buchanan's come out and said how much he loves this team. And then Ty came on the Pat McAfee show and said how much he loves this team. And so really, again, last Sunday sucked, right? It was just kind of a typical Pacers luck. Haven't moved up in the draft in 37 years, according to Kevin Pritchard, and he felt more sorry for Herb Simon, the Simon family, for having to go through all that for so many years, being that close to being able to move up. But he said, really, that was who he felt sorry for at that moment. He felt sorry for the fans as well, obviously, because he sent out the tweet. But at the same time, he knew what they had already gotten out of Zoo, which is the starting center caliber player with his production and his paint presence. So he was totally okay with what happened at the draft lottery. He's not going to apologize for what happened at the draft lottery. He apologized to the fans for what happened at the draft lottery, but he's not sorry for going and taking that risk and getting what we got for Zoo. So with all that being said, with this core, with this team, with Ty coming out and saying how much he loves his team, with Chad coming out and saying how much he loves his team, Kevin Pritchard saying how much he loves his team, I am extremely confident in this organization. I'm extremely confident and excited for next season. It's going to be great. Now, could we have a slower start to the beginning of the season with Ty? Yeah, possibly. But we'll find out when we get there, and we'll discuss it then. But really, really excited about this season. I'm excited about the moves that we could possibly make free agency wise as well. But speaking of making moves, let's talk about making some moves with our partners over at Kalshi. At Kalshi, the playoffs are heating up. It's the most electric time in basketball. On Kalshi, you can trade every game, every series, the conference finals, and the championship. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use code FANARCHBASKETBALL to get $10 when you trade 10. Kalshi, Kalshi, trade on anything. Like I always say, we love having our friends at Kalshi on board as always. And really, when it comes to making big moves, I love the move that the Pacers made with Micah Potter. And so Dean Simon came out with an article yesterday about Micah Potter. And I think Dean is completely spot on. Dean is with 8.9 seconds. And really, he called Micah Potter the X factor for the Pacers. And I, reading through the article, I couldn't help but agree wholeheartedly with the fact that Micah Potter, the way he came in and performed for the Indiana Pacers, could absolutely be that X factor for the Indiana Pacers. Now, I'm not going to go through the entire article. I'm just going to hit on some touch points from that article specifically, but really more so on how Micah Potter could really make Tyrese Halliburton's life easier coming back from that Achilles injury. And Dean said, along with Halliburton, the Pacers were thought to be missing a knockdown front court shooter this past season in the aftermath of Miles Turner's departure from the Milwaukee Bucks. However, Potter crushed this narrative really overall. It was kind of like an overnight thing. His threes, 42.3%, and really just a 47-game sample, which is phenomenal. And he also went on to say, with Halliburton set to re-enter the fold, a partnership with Potter could provide a new and exciting source of efficient offense. A Halliburton-Potter pairing might also introduce a brand new gravitational effect to the Pacers' high-powered offense. He said, once the former makes his return and connects with the latter on screening actions, the superstar passer will draw plenty of attention from both defensive players involved, leaving Potter with a few guaranteed practice shots at the top of the key. The easiest way for the Pacers to assist with Halliburton's return to action will be to surround him with reliable and efficient talents on both sides of the floor, allowing him to ease his way into a rhythm. And so, again, Micah Potter came in and really, it was really a revolving door when Micah Potter first stepped into this position with the Indiana Pacers. And once he got his feet under him, he performed extremely well for the Indiana Pacers. And so I think having that extra big body, again, he's 6'9", having that extra big body on the floor to kind of open up some lanes for Ty is going to be massive, giving him those easier shots on the floor to help get him into a rhythm. So again, Dean, I love the article from 8.9 seconds. And I agree. I really think Micah Potter could be the X factor for the Indiana Pacers when it comes to helping Ty ease back into his role with the team. So again, so that leads me to my question of the day for a Friday. So today's question of the day is, has Micah Potter earned a stronger role on this Pacers team for 26-27? Has Micah Potter earned a stronger role on this Pacers team for the 26-27 season? For me, absolutely yes. I'm a huge fan of Micah Potter. I have been since he got here. Like I mentioned before, it was kind of a revolving door at the start of the season. Micah, he got here and got his feet under him. He can shoot, he can defend, rim protect. He's a distributor as well. But really, it's the fact that he's the size of a center. He's 6'9", but can shoot from the outside like a shooting guard. He was over 40% from three-point range, and so for me, absolutely yes. I think Micah Potter can do big things for the Indiana Pacers in this coming season. He's going to be huge coming off the bench to replace Zoo. Whether Zoo is out of gas or in foul trouble, stuff like that. I think he's going to be great in that rotation. He's earned a lot more minutes. He's going to be playing significant minutes for this Pacers team, I believe, going into 26-27. So again, put your answers in the YouTube comment section. Message me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever you want to message me, wherever you can find me. Really enjoy getting those comments from you, getting that feedback from you. So it's Friday, folks. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. For Jason, Oliver, and Isaac back in New York, we will be back at it again on Monday. I am Brandt McCoskey, your host. This has been Pacers Daily on Fan Arch, presented by Kalshi. Love our friends and partners at Kalshi. So really, enjoy the weekend, everybody. I will get back into some more comments on Monday. Looking forward to hearing from all of you. I hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.